Howdy y'all. If you're here, you're probably here for this. I'm gonna take a TJ intake tube, some PVC, and then this filter, which looks like this as of now. Here's the filter number, by the way. You can also add a 4 to the front of this and you get the Wix brand filter of the same size. But I'm gonna take the fins, cut them off, and then we're gonna make this sleeve. I might have to go get a longer one now that I've seen everything, but we're gonna take this guy. We're gonna mount him right here. Let's take my factory light and show you. We're gonna take him and mount him right here into the firewall. First step is taking the evap though. Crud. My light stopped working. There we go. We're gonna take the evap that originally was in these two holes, and we're gonna move him down below. Kind of hard to see him right now. I got him right there, but I need to lengthen the wires. So I got the plug right here. I'm gonna add another like 5 inches to it and move it down here. Basically it's mounted to the AC, I believe this is the AC reservoir or something of that magnitude. I'm gonna mount to the bolt that holds its bracket to the firewall. I'm gonna put my vacuum down there. It just barely puts a little stress back here on their lines, but you can see it conveniently runs right down to it down there. And then I'm gonna just use its original mount down there with its rubber holding thing, and then give the line some slack. This light. I'm gonna give the line right here in front of us some slack to get down to it. That's the first step. Okay people, here's the funnest part of the whole thing, where the mods start. Whoa, 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 whoa. Loosey goosey. A little too much speed there maybe. Do I have it going the right way? Guess I'll just set you guys here. So just to be clear, make sure your harness, your power harness is out of the way. I wouldn't be too worried about the shavings and stuff, but I'm wanting to put it where this edge right here, where these two original bolts are, is still there, and I'm just barely missing this bend. So let's start it. And I'm gonna lay flat on this bevel. You know what I should have done? I should have taken my cowl off first, but I think I can drill my hole. The only thing I'm scared of is my washer fluid line that's routed right here down somewhere. It might get snagged, so I think I'm gonna take my cowl off real quick, and then we'll hit that that spot. I actually added screws to this cowl to hold it down better, just because here in the center it wanted to always bow up. This is actually a 2001 or 99 cowl, and this is a 2001 hood. I think this is a 99 cowl still, and they just don't jive as well together. So I gotta screw it down tight where it doesn't have the tendency to rub when I open the hood. It did for a while, and it was getting old and annoying. Okay, there's that. Just a bunch of screws. I'm just gonna rest it on the washer Okay, that hose goes that way pretty quick. Like I said, I'm probably gonna put all these screws in the cab with the screwdrivers. But now we're ready to drill. I'm gonna do one last inspection down inside there just to make sure this is what I'm going for. And one last confirmation underneath the hood that I'm drilling into the right level. It appears so. Make sure I'm drilling into the right level. I looked at this. It's kind of hard to see. I looked at this for reference to make sure that this level right here was the same on the inside of the cowl. It's kind of hard to see down in there, but make sure that that grommet or zip tie grommet, whatever you want to call it, was the same level in comparison to this. So now let's get our hole started right there. Turn off my light on my phone, get the garage light to come back on. Here we go. Here's where the fun begins. Just trying to get a bite where I can start the whoa. Don't do that, people. Finger off the trigger when you get that thing back on. That is rough, people. Let's go slow. Maybe let's go fast. Man, it's tough to get that going the right angle. Except for giving her the beans, I guess. Just gotta give her the beans. Get that light back. It's looking like it's slowly getting there. Might have a little bit. It's just being a little problematic. I feel like I'm hitting something, but maybe we'll just hit this like this for the rest of the way. And just get it ground out where we can maybe stick our pipe up in there. It's just getting to the point that it just wants to bind. Okay, ooh. That's not good, but just a little ripple right there that might have to do a little bit of work to seal that right there. But I think we can do that. Just silicone it and seal that back up. But now you know why you can't go all the way to the bottom. But really that don't look terrible. So next part is trying to install the pipe. Well, I just Sharpied a rough estimate of what was left to cut up on the upper side, and I'm gonna get it with the Dremel. So I'm gonna set you guys right there, get the Dremel, start cutting. So close. And if I really go like this, I can get it in there. Man. I'm almost worried I'm not going to get that back out. But that's what I was looking for. Roughly that fit. I might have to do something. I wanted to take a fuel hose and put it all the way around that, but maybe I'm better off just putting this in like such. I need to take the bevel here and cut it out on this one at least, and then I think I'm gonna silicone there, and my hack job that I got from the inside perspective, I think, let's see if it'll start. It would start. And I think once we get it in there, it's gonna fit. But we gotta trim all these little fins off, first of all. And then second, we gotta figure out how we're gonna use the two couplers. Get too far along. I cut the fins off this filter. You can see where they used to be. Now I'm gonna drive it down to where it's flush against this ripple, and then I'm gonna take this second one that now the filter fits inside like this, and I'm gonna ram him to the second one to make a tube that surrounds it, and then I'm gonna try shoving it into the cowl. So here we go. Okay, so I got the filter fit in. I even got lines drawn where I'm gonna eventually trim more of the plastic off. And I got these two cutouts made. The one for the, kind of hard to see, one for the hood so it can be over this and straddle it. And then when you get this down in there, it takes a little bit of effort sometimes to get it to go down in there. How the guy get it? Well, I didn't have any of this problem until I started holding the camera. Sure enough, there she is. And just take my word for it, the hood does shut, but let's go ahead and give you a preview of the next step if I can find, oh, right in front of me. Next step is figuring out how I can drop this driver's side hose of the TJ hose and get it all to fit under the hood, because right now this is barely bumping. I know one way I could do it is these oil caps. You can take the oil cap and you can actually take the top of that off and gain about a ½ inch right there more to drop it. You see there's a little bit of a void under there, but the plan is to drop that down hopefully enough that it can fit. Worst case scenario, I'm gonna have to cut it up here where it ends straight and get a 90 that will fit it right here, but I might not even have to do that. I'm hoping I can use this TJ thing in its full essence like this, and then look at that little gap I'm gonna have to bridge from here to here. It's only about, I'd say, 4 inches, something like that. That's gonna be nice, but I still gotta get to the point that I can do that. I might actually just take this tube, and where I cut it there, I might cut it where I can roll this thing like that to get it further back right over the oil cap. That is kind of a sucky part. It'll be right over the oil cap, but you can still access the engine oil and the transmission oil, and those are more critical to everyday use than pouring oil in, you know, every once in a while. So you can still see the oil cap, and you could probably turn it off right here, but we'll have to figure that out a different day. I'm gonna tape it up for now, and just leave that new cowl intake there. Probably just won't turn my cabin air on tomorrow because the temperature outside is actually rather nice. So I'll probably just leave that alone for now, and just put the factory intake back on. So for now, let's call it a night. 9:26. So gonna put the cowl back on, the trim of the cowl back on, now that I know that it can fit. Probably gonna vacuum it out real quick before I put it back on down in this void area back in there, and then through the actual new filter hole. I haven't figured out quite how I plan to seal all this up. I might just silicone it, and then whenever I go to do a filter change, you know, X amount of miles down the road, I'll just re-silicone it again to seal it off. I was gonna do like a brake hose, or not brake hose, but a fuel line around it to seal it, but there's just not enough room, honestly. And frankly, silicone will seal it better than that would anyways. I was thinking I was gonna have to mount this thing, but honestly, it's pretty firm in there, and with some silicone, I bet it would fit great. You see right here is the only spot that really got some serious play in it. So maybe a couple guides to hold it in place, mounts on either side, might help it. But we'll see that later after I paint it black and all that good jazz. So we'll go figure. Light turned off on me. We'll talk to you guys later and maybe I'll just split this into 2 parts. That way you guys can see it as it's built. Build my own cold air intake. See you guys. It's the next day. Figuring out how to finagle this guy in there. Like I said last night, I think I'm gonna roll it kind of like this, tilt that up a little hill, uphill a little bit I should say, right here, this guy. But I don't think it'll really hurt anything, so really we just need to decide where to cut it. I don't think I'm gonna do it that radical right there. I think I'm gonna do something like this and just figure out where I can get a good mount on it, and then go with it. Let's get to cutting. I think I know what I'm gonna do. So I realized I lost some footage in all this. This is a couple days later, but just to give you an idea how I cut this, I cut it at roughly a 45 from the original tube that was on the TJ. So it would probably have leveled out, like if this was the bottom of the input tube that came off the TJ, the cut was roughly at this angle. And then I just shove it down in here. You can see the throttle body. I just shove it down in here, and then I put this, shoved it down into this Fernco, as we call it in the sewer industry. Unfortunately, I had to work in the sewer industry. That's a different story for a different day. But you use the Fernco, and then you get this clamp on as good and firm of a position as you can. Mine is kind of slightly downhill on the front side, but it grabs that just right. And then you just tighten that down and trim your clay. I want to say this is a 2-inch clay pipe boot. You trim it down where you can get the most optimal grab on both the throttle body and the TJ intake tube. You'll notice that this goes uphill a little bit. Ultimately, I think I'm actually going to trim maybe a little bit of the TJ hose outlet for your PVC valve. I think I'm going to trim it back a little bit so it doesn't make such a hard thing, because basically this is barely rubbing against the hood. But when this thing gets warm, it easily bends to that. In fact, I don't think it's a big problem the way it is. Just if we could have a little bit less hard of a angle right here and maybe more of a gradual slope, that would be better for this long term. But really, I don't think it's going to end up hurting it. But yeah, that's just a real quick recap on how I cut that TJ. I just took a hacksaw and went at that 45-degree angle till I felt like it would shut against the hood without rubbing, and it doesn't. When I push down on the hood above it like this, you can hear about an 1/8 inch of play before you hear it touch this. So it seems like it's working good. And that's a recap on that real quick. And now I'll go back to the timeline of putting this all together. So I got the housing and everything made, and I made this little bracket for it to hold it in place when I put it in. I just pulled it back out and spray painted all my rough edges just to kind of prolong that, and then I put some spray paint all the way back in there because I actually noticed it was touching the firewall back there. So it's actually like the most perfect fit you could ask for as far as going as far back in there as you can. So I went ahead and spray painted all the rough edges, and I'm going to reinstall it later, and then I'm going to actually silicone around it just to seal it off good. And then whenever I go to change the filter, which I'm thinking I'm going to make it last probably about every 25,000 or so, whenever I do that, I'll just re-silicone it again. Simple 5-minute job. And usually I have silicone laying around the house with a nail in the tip, so I just pull the nail and it comes out again as long as it hasn't like hardened up. Well, I moved this light, the factory under the hood light, if you have one, I moved it over. It used to be right roughly here where the cutout is now, but I just moved it over a couple inches, and the wire just falls in place as you shut the hood. Like again, I said, the evap, I moved it down there. I think that's just your evap like check canister. It's kind of hard to see. You can see the green check cap there. I just moved it down, and he seems to be riding fine. And everything else looks good. I accidentally snapped this guy But I had a tall one. Napa, when I got a replacement, gave me the one for the rear as the front because they can't get the front. So I ordered a small one, a short one, off of the internet for $3 that's coming in the mail. That's the original low profile one. And what I plan to do with the hose here, kind of hard to see right now and kind of hard to show you with only one hand holding a phone and directing, but I think I'm going to do something like this. Come in from the side but with less tube, something like probably like this. If you can see that, hopefully you can see that. Come in from the side somewhere like that. That way it has a little bit of room. If I want to move this tube back to work in this general area of the engine bay, I can move this back by removing the filter, and then I can still swivel this back, and this will turn with it as you move this pipe back like this, pushing it that direction. But I think ultimately I'll get that patched up pretty quick, and I think all things said about this, it'll be a pretty good system. You can always work around it by either undoing the stuff here, undoing the clamp here. What I meant by stuff is the clamps here, and remove the whole tube that goes over the motor to do like oil changes and stuff like that, or work on this side of the motor or work on this side of the motor. The only thing that will be hard to work on now would be the heater lines and AC lines going into the firewall, which I need to do a heater core change eventually, and that would be kind of a challenge with the thing in the way, but I think I'll just remove it to do that. So I'll show you full install later today once I silicone it. Well, let's go ahead and look at the reducer, if you want to call it that. It's actually a PVC converter from, I think, 2-inch to 4-inch. Anyways, I'm going to take more time and grind this down a little bit more and get it a little bit more of an opening so it can match, I think, it can match more of the throttle body size. I think it's just slightly small, so I'm just going to grind that down until I get it just slightly thinner to add just a little bit more flow. Driving it around, it really doesn't feel any different so far, but just to be sure it's getting enough airflow, I'm going to trim this down to the point that I feel comfortable doing it, and then I'm going to stop. But outside of that, really, I'm just going to put this in here in about 10 minutes or so once I shave it, and then I'm going to take silicone and just seal around it, and that's really where I'm going to stop. You can hear it sucking from inside the cab when you have it running, but really, like I said, it doesn't feel like it's any laggier or any improved for that matter. But you did get to relocate from here, this intake box or port, all the way up to here. So I mean, you gained at least probably 6 inches of water line and added it up there, and then you can take this whole box and this tube out, which I'm probably going to do after I get this all reinstalled. And really, that's it, y'all. Seems like it's going to work good. Just make sure if you're using this guy or when you pull this guy that you're careful with it, not to snap it like I did. I'm just going to wait for a new one to come in the mail, and then I'll trim this 1/2-inch pipe or 1/2-inch fuel line to the right size where it just feeds right into that. So hopefully this wraps it up, and you guys can make this yourself and get good results like I hopefully am about to. But like I said, just going to trim this, put it back on, and then silicone it. And I made this bracket. I don't know if I showed you guys earlier. I made this bracket to hold it in place. I might eventually add a second one on this side just to support it that much more, but really I think the one bracket is going to be fine. And I used the original evap screws or bolts or whatever in their original spot to do it. So hope this helps. It's going to be a long video when I get this done, so if you're stuck on this long watching, thank you for watching this long and hearing me ramble, and I hope this helps you. Your friend St. Chris, God bless. Have a good one. Closing remarks, just to cover it. I got this GE Advanced Silicone because it says a couple important things: freeze and sunproof. I looked at the temperature rating for it, which is right here. Kind of hard to focus, but it says -60 to 400. That's pretty good. Then to top it all off, down here at the bottom, it also says won't blemish metals, which is a good one. And if you look on the front, it says lifetime guarantee, 100% silicone. That's important. Won't blemish metals, shrink and crack proof, 30-minute rain ready. So I just put this stuff on. I know it's not the most optimal color for my Jeep, being light gray, but it's what I had. And here, let's plug in this light. As long as I can get the wire out. What the heck? Looks like it fell behind. There we go. Here, let's plug it in. Not the most pretty look, but you know, I'm going for function, not form necessarily. And it's siliconed. I took the bracket off and got back in there really good, and then put it back on so it'd hold it in place. And I really think that'll seal good before morning. By the way, wrote my part number on it so it wouldn't be lost. I'll eventually paint this on the next air filter change once I confirm that it works efficiently. And last note, I went ahead and put this Gorilla Tape right here where I saw this hose rubbing against the top of the hood and showing in the grease or soot, whatever you want to call this stuff. I went ahead and put a piece of tape there. That way it would protect the paint from getting rubbed away constantly. And if this piece of tape fails, I mean, I'll just pull it off, put another one on, and I won't have to paint anything under the hood, hopefully for a long time. Anyways, there she is. Just gotta wait on this guy in a few weeks, put him on, get it fixed, and then I think we'll be good to go. I'll keep you guys posted on how well it works. I'll talk to you guys later. God bless. Your friend St. Chris. Have a good one.